In the quiet town of Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania, a young boy vanished in 1991 during his own birthday party. His mother, Elaine Whitmore, had left him playing with the other guests, the laughter of children filling the air. But when she went to check on him, he was gone, disappeared without a trace. 10 years later, she's browsing a yard sale when she spots something eerily familiar on a table, a personal item belonging to her missing son, something she was never supposed to see. Again, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the tree-lined streets of Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania. It was one of those perfect autumn Saturdays in September, when the leaves had just begun to turn, painting the suburban landscape in warm hues of amber and gold. The town, known for its white picket fences and seasonal fairs, maintained that small-town charm that made neighbors wave at each other from their porches. Elaine Whitmore sat in her living room, staring at the same spot on the wall where a family photo once hung. She had removed it years ago because looking at Nathan's bright smile was too painful. The doorbell rang, breaking her reverie. "Ella, it's me," Donna's voice called through the door. "Are you ready?" Elaine opened the door to find her friend standing there with that determined look she'd worn all week. Donna had been persistent about getting her out of the house, suggesting they attend the Lavender community yard sale in Ash Hollow, just 4 blocks away. "I don't know if I'm up for this," Elaine said, but she was already reaching for her jacket. "You need this outing," Donna insisted, her voice gentle but firm. "It's been 10 years, Elaine. You can't keep living like this." 10 years. The words hung heavy in the air. 10 years since Nathan, her 8-year-old son, had vanished from his own birthday party. The case had gone cold long ago. The police had no leads left to pursue, and Elaine had been living in a perpetual state of grief and tension ever since. "I've always liked yard sales," Elaine admitted quietly. "They're like time capsules. All those old items remind me of better times." Donna's face brightened. "That's the spirit. Come on. When was the last time we did something together outside your house? I can't even remember." As they walked to Donna's car, Elaine noticed how the neighborhood hadn't changed much. The same oak trees lined the streets. The same houses stood with their well-maintained gardens. Time had moved forward for everyone else, but for her, it had stopped that terrible day. They drove the short distance to Ash Hollow, where the Lavender community yard sale was already in full swing. It was a neighborhood-wide event, with multiple families setting up tables on their lawns and driveways, eager to rid themselves of unwanted belongings. "Look at the size of this," Donna marveled as they parked. "The whole neighborhood must be participating." They began strolling through the sprawling sale, taking their time as they browsed the various items on display. Vintage clothing hung on makeshift racks, old books were stacked in cardboard boxes, and kitchen gadgets from decades past gleamed in the afternoon light. Elaine had to admit it felt good to be out. The fresh air, the buzz of conversation around them, the normalcy of it all was oddly comforting. They stopped at several tables, examining items, making small talk with the sellers. Then Elaine saw it. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. Among a collection of children's toys and books on one table, something blue caught her attention. She frowned and moved closer, her heart beginning to race. It was a Game Boy device, the color unmistakably teal. But it wasn't just any Game Boy. As she picked it up with trembling hands, she saw the 3 Pokémon stickers, a Pikachu in the center, and 2 others flanking it. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice catching. "What is it?" Donna asked, noticing her friend's sudden stillness. "This is Nathan's," Elaine said, her voice stronger now, but shaking with emotion. "This is my son's Game Boy. Look at the stickers. They're identical. He loved Pokémon so much." The memories came flooding back. Nathan's school friend had given him the Game Boy for his 7th birthday, just a year before he disappeared. He had carried it everywhere, and she remembered the daily struggle of convincing him not to bring it to school. "Are you sure?" Donna asked gently. "I'm 100% sure," Elaine said, clutching the device. No one else could possibly have this exact Game Boy with these same stickers in this exact pattern. Can I help you, ladies? An elderly man approached them, wearing a friendly smile that quickly faded when he saw Elaine's distressed expression. Where did you get this? Elaine asked, her voice trembling. She was shaking so badly she almost dropped the Game Boy. The man reached out instinctively and caught it before it fell. Whoa there. Are you all right? This is my son's, Elaine said, her voice rising. This is my missing son's. Game Boy. Where is he? Where's my boy? Please, if you know where Nathan is, please tell me so I can see him again. Her trembling voice and desperate plea began attracting attention from nearby sellers and shoppers. People turned to stare, whispering among themselves. The elderly man's expression shifted from confusion to hesitation, and then to fear. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, pulling the Game Boy from her reaching hands and stuffing it into his jacket pocket. No, Elaine panicked. His behavior only confirmed her suspicions. That's my son's. Why are you hiding it? Ela, calm down, Donna tried to intervene, placing a hand on her friend's shoulder. But Elaine was beyond consolation. The stress of the moment, combined with 10 years of grief, overwhelmed her. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. Gasps erupted from the gathered crowd. I'm calling the cops, the elderly man announced, pulling out his phone. Within 5 minutes, a police cruiser arrived. A young officer stepped out and approached the scene. What's going on here? The elderly man spoke first. This woman started panicking, claiming this game. Boy I'm selling belongs to her son. She has no evidence and tried to take it from me. Sir, may I see the device? The officer requested. The man crossed his arms. Legally, I don't have to show you anything. This is my property. I have rights to privacy. Sir, I'm asking you to cooperate, the officer said more firmly. I know my rights, the man insisted, keeping his hand protectively over his jacket pocket. Elaine, still on the ground with Donna's help, looked up at the officer. Please call the detective working on my son's case, Nathan Whitmore. He disappeared 10 years ago. The officer radioed for backup and to contact the detective. Within minutes, more police cars arrived, along with an unmarked sedan. Detective Morrison, a man in his 50s with graying hair, stepped out and immediately approached Elaine. Mrs. Whitmore, he said gently. What's happening? The Game Boy, Elaine said, pointing at the elderly man. He has Nathan's Game Boy, the blue one with 3 Pokémon stickers. Detective Morrison's expression grew serious. He turned to the elderly man. Sir, I'm Detective Morrison. I've been working the Nathan Whitmore case for 10 years. The boy was 8 when he vanished. He'd be 18 now. We have a detailed list of his personal belongings that went missing with him, including his favorite toy, a blue Game Boy with 3 Pokémon stickers. He produced a folder from his car and pulled out old photographs. These are pictures of Nathan and his Game Boy. Now, I'm going to need you to hand over that device so we can compare it. One of the other officers suddenly spoke up. Wait, is that Walter Griggs? Sergeant Walter Griggs? The elderly man straightened slightly. The officer continued. Sir, you were a respected police sergeant here in Ash Hollow. You know our procedures. With obvious reluctance, Walter Griggs reached into his pocket and handed over the Game Boy. Detective Morrison took it carefully, comparing it to the photographs. The resemblance was unmistakable. Where did you get this, Mr. Griggs? The car, Detective asked. I bought it at a flea market years ago, Walter said quickly. That's bullshit, Elaine exclaimed, Donna still supporting her. He has something to do with my son's disappearance. Ma'am, please, Detective Morrison said. Then to Walter, we're going to need to search your property. Fine, Walter said, his jaw tight. Do what you need to do. The officers began with Walter's car and the boxes he'd brought to the yard sale. They methodically went through everything, but found nothing suspicious. We'll need to search your home as well, Detective Morrison said. Will you cooperate? Walter sighed. Whatever. But I don't want that woman, he pointed at Elaine, on my property. The group made their way to their vehicles. Detective Morrison helped Elaine and Donna into his car. Walter led the procession to his house, just a block, away and around the corner, the police cars following behind. As they drove the short distance, Elaine's heart pounded. After 10 years of nothing, could this finally be the break they needed? Or would it be another dead end in a case that had already broken her heart 1,000 times over? The autumn sun was beginning its descent as they pulled up to Walter Griggs' modest 2-story home. Its white siding and black shutters gave nothing away about what secrets might lie within. "Wait here," Detective Morrison instructed Elaine and Donna as the officers prepared to enter the house. Elaine and Donna remained in Detective Morrison's car outside. Through the windows they could see officers moving methodically through the rooms, checking closets, examining corners, looking for any sign that might connect this place to Nathan's disappearance. "It's going to be okay," Donna whispered, squeezing Elaine's hand. Elaine couldn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the house, watching every movement, hoping against hope that they would find something, anything, that would lead her to Nathan. The minutes crawled by. 30 minutes, 45, an hour, more or less. Finally, Detective Morrison emerged from the house and walked toward them, his expression unreadable. "We found nothing," he said gently, as Elaine rolled down the window. "No evidence of a young boy having been here or currently living here. Zero evidence of any kind." Elaine's heart sank. She had been so sure, so certain, that finding Nathan's Game Boy meant they were close to finding him. The detective produced a folder and showed her official documents. Walter Griggs was indeed a police sergeant, retired with full honors. Officer Chen, the one who had recognized Walter earlier, approached them. "Ma'am, if I may speak subjectively, Mr. Griggs was well respected in this small town throughout the 70s and 80s. I worked with him briefly before he retired. I can't believe he would harm any child." "But the Game Boy," Elaine protested weakly. "Those stickers. We can't prove it's actually the same Game Boy that belonged to Nathan," Detective Morrison explained. "We couldn't find any DNA on it. Without concrete evidence, we can't investigate Mr. Griggs as a suspect." They walked back toward the house where Walter stood on his porch, arms crossed, looking every bit the wronged citizen. "Mr. Griggs," Detective Morrison said, "we'd like your permission to keep the Game Boy as potential evidence." Walter waved his hand dismissively. "Take it. I have no use for it." He looked directly at Elaine. "I was about to sell it anyway. Would have sold it to you if you hadn't been so offensive and accused me of terrible things." "That's my son's," Elaine said, her voice steadier now, calmer than before, but still carrying an edge of suspicion. "It's evidence. I don't have to buy what's ours in the first place." Detective Morrison stepped between them. "Mr. Griggs, can you tell us when and for whom you bought this device?" Walter shifted uncomfortably. "I don't even remember. It was at a flea market somewhere. Bought it for my—" He paused, and Elaine caught the hesitation. "For my niece." Elaine's eyes widened. He had been about to say son. She was sure of it. She glanced at Detective Morrison and saw from his expression that he had noticed it too. That small acknowledgement helped her stay calm rather than panic again. "Mrs. Whitmore," Detective Morrison said, "would you follow us to the station to submit your official statement?" Elaine nodded and turned to Donna. "I'll go with the officers alone." Donna pulled her into a tight hug. "Call me if you need anything at all." Elaine climbed into the police car, leaving Donna standing on the sidewalk. As they drove away, she saw Walter Griggs in the side mirror, still standing on his porch, talking with the other officers. The nearby police station was a modest brick building that had served the community for decades. Elaine had been here too many times over the years, first during the initial investigation, then for updates that gradually became less frequent until they stopped altogether. Inside, she was led to a small interview room, where she gave her statement about the day's events. The officer, taking her statement, typed everything carefully, occasionally asking for clarification. When they finished, she signed several documents, her hand cramping from the repetitive motion. "I want to see the Game Boy again," she said suddenly. The officer looked uncertain but made a call. A few minutes later, a forensic technician appeared with the device in an evidence bag. "Let's check it together," the technician said kindly. She was a young woman with gentle eyes who seemed to understand Elaine's need to see it work. They went to a lab room where the technician carefully removed the Game Boy and inserted 2 AA batteries. The familiar startup sound filled the room as the screen came to life. "It still works well," the technician observed. "There's a game cartridge in it." Elaine leaned in, eyes narrowing as the technician carefully removed the cartridge and read the faded label. "That's Nathan's," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's his favorite game. He took it everywhere." She looked around at the others, urgency rising in her tone. "Surely they can trace something from this, can't they?" Detective Morrison had joined them. "Mrs. Whitmore, this device could have landed in Mr. Griggs' hands in so many ways. Maybe Nathan left it somewhere and someone found it, then sold it at that flea market. These things are very durable." "It's been 10 years, Elaine said, her voice breaking. 10 years, and we haven't had a single real lead. The case went cold. But today, surely this means something. There must be something you can do." The forensic technician placed a comforting hand on Elaine's shoulder. "We'll try to search for fingerprints, timestamps, and DNA, but I have to be honest, the chances are very slim. This device has clearly been handled by multiple people over the years. You shouldn't expect much." Elaine nodded, understanding but not accepting. She watched as they carefully repackaged the Game Boy, treating it with the reverence it deserved, as possibly the only link to her missing son. "You should go home and rest," Detective Morrison said when they finished. "This has been an emotionally exhausting day. We can have an officer escort you." Elaine considered the offer. She was tired, more tired than she'd been in years. The hope and disappointment of the day had drained her completely. "Yes," she said quietly. "Thank you." As she sat in the back of the police car heading home, Elaine couldn't shake the feeling that Walter Griggs knew more than he was saying. That hesitation when he almost said son instead of niece played over and over in her mind. And the Game Boy, how could it be anything other than Nathan's? The officer escorting her was kind, making small talk, trying to distract her from her thoughts, but Elaine barely heard him. Her mind was still at that yard sale, still holding that Game Boy, still seeing those 3 Pokémon stickers that she remembered Nathan placing so carefully, his little tongue poking out in concentration. "Here." "We are, ma'am," the officer said, pulling up to her house. Elaine stepped out of the police car and thanked the officer again before heading inside her home at Maple Hollow. The moment the door closed behind her, exhaustion hit her like a physical force. Her legs felt weak, and she had to lean against the wall for support. She made her way to the kitchen, her movements automatic as she filled the kettle and set it on the stove. While waiting for the water to boil, she slumped into a chair and put her head in her hands. What was supposed to be a calm day out with Donna had turned into a complete disaster. The more she thought about it, the more guilt crept in. Had she reacted too excessively, made an unnecessary scene? She pictured all those people at the yard sale staring at her as she fell to the ground, watching as she accused an elderly, retired police officer of terrible things. The kettle whistled, and she poured the hot water over a tea bag, watching the color seep out and darken the water. She took a sip, barely tasting it, her mind racing. Unable to sit still with her thoughts, she picked up the phone and dialed Donna's number. "Ella," Donna answered on the second ring. "Are you okay? How did it go at the station?" "Are you still at that yard sale?" Elaine asked, ignoring the question. "Yes, but I'm leaving soon. Why?" "I want to go back there again. To meet with that man, Walter Griggs." "Please, Elaine, don't do this to yourself," Donna said. concern evident in her voice. "Not like that," Elaine said quickly. "I feel guilty. I want to apologize to him for making him look bad in front of the neighbors. I shouldn't have made such a scene." There was a pause on the other end. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "Please, Donna, I need to do this." "All right," Donna sighed. "I'll pick you up." True to her word, Donna arrived at Elaine's home in the next 10 minutes. Elaine climbed into the car, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. They drove back to Lavender Grove, the afternoon. Sun now positioned differently in the sky. Elaine checked her watch. It was around 3 p.m. The yard sale would be winding down by now. As Donna parked the car, they could see that many of the sellers were indeed packing up. They walked toward where the yard sale was taking place. And Elaine spotted Walter Griggs at his car, loading boxes into the trunk. His movements were sharp, aggressive, and even from a distance she could see he looked pissed and annoyed. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Donna asked one more time. "Yes," Elaine said firmly, though her heart was racing. They approached Walter at his car. He saw them coming and straightened up, his face darkening. "What again?" he said harshly. "What do you want from me this time?" Elaine took a deep breath. "I came to apologize. I reacted badly earlier. I shouldn't have made such a scene. I'm sorry." Walter stared at her for a long moment. His expression didn't soften much, and he clearly wasn't fully accepting her apology. "I hope the neighbors didn't get the wrong idea after what happened this morning," he said coldly. "I've lived here peacefully for years. I don't need this kind of drama." "I understand," Elaine said quietly. "I'm truly sorry." Walter slammed his trunk shut. "Now go. I need to grab the rest of my stuff from the sales table." He walked away without another word, leaving Elaine and Donna standing by his car. They returned to their own vehicle in the parking lot. "Well, you tried," Donna said gently as they sat in the car. Before they could leave Lavender Grove, another car pulled up near Walter's vehicle. It was rather eccentric and eye-catching, a green Volkswagen New Beetle with its distinctive bubbly shape. A man who looked to be in his late 20s or early 30s stepped out and approached Walter, who had returned with more items. "That's interesting," Donna murmured. They watched as Walter roughly shoved a heavy box toward the younger man, speaking to him in what was clearly an angry or upset tone. The box wasn't taped shut, and when Walter shoved it, several items tumbled out onto the ground, what looked like game cards and children's toy cars. The younger man bent down to gather them, hastily putting them back into the box. Donna rolled down her window just enough, and fragments of conversation drifted toward them on the breeze. I don't care," Walter's voice carried. Not mine." A gust of wind brought more words. "Honest with me, sake of your mother, then leave." The younger man shook his head multiple times, looking agitated. He stomped away with the box toward the Volkswagen, clearly upset by whatever had been said. Elaine and Donna exchanged meaningful looks. "What do you think that was about?" Elaine whispered. They continued watching as Walter returned to cleaning up the last of his items from the yard sale table. The younger man had loaded the box into his car and was already pulling away. "Maybe that's Walter's son," Elaine said thoughtfully. "I heard him say something about mother." "I think so too," Donna agreed. "But why did he give him just that one box?" Elaine's mind was racing. It looked like the box was filled with children's toys. Maybe it was his. If so, then the Game Boy must have been his too. She turned to Donna with sudden urgency. "Maybe we could get some information if we talk to the son." "Follow." "Him?" Donna said skeptically. "I don't like to stalk people, Elaine, and besides, that car has already left." "Please," Elaine pleaded. "I don't want this to just be another dead end. Not when we might finally have something. If we called the police, I don't think they would take us seriously." Donna looked at her friend's desperate face and was clearly moved. She sighed heavily. "Fine," she said. "We'll see where he goes. Maybe talk to him if he's willing, but we won't upset anyone or get onto anyone's property. Okay, Elaine agreed immediately. Yes. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Donna started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, heading in the direction the green Volkswagen had gone. It wasn't hard to catch up to the green Volkswagen. The distinctive car was easy to spot among the more conventional vehicles on the road. Donna followed it carefully, maintaining a normal driving distance so as not to appear suspicious. There, Elaine pointed, as the Volkswagen's turn signal began blinking. He's turning. They watched as the car pulled into a parking lot and stopped outside what looked like a spooky-themed novelty store. The building was painted black with purple trim, and even from the road, they could see Halloween decorations in the windows. The store was located close to the Maple Hollow outskirts in a more commercial area. Damn, Donna muttered. She had missed the turn, stuck in the wrong lane. Making a sudden turn would upset the traffic flow, and there were cars behind them. It's okay, Elaine said, though she was craning her neck to keep the store in sight. Just find a place to turn around. Donna kept driving, looking for a safe place to make a U-turn. She found one about a quarter-mile down the road and carefully turned the car around. Hopefully he's still there, Donna said as they approached the store again, this time in the correct lane. But as they neared the parking lot, they saw the man exiting the store. He was carrying 2 large shopping bags and walking quickly toward his car. Before Donna could even consider pulling into the parking lot, the green Volkswagen suddenly reversed out of its spot at high speed. It came so close to their car that Donna had to brake hard to avoid a collision. "What the hell?" Donna exclaimed. "Did you see that? Who drives like that? Just reversed without even looking." The Volkswagen sped out of the parking lot and back onto the main road, leaving them shaken. "Should we keep following?" Elaine asked. Donna gripped the steering wheel tighter. "That was too close, but yeah, let's see where he goes." They resumed following the Volkswagen, keeping a safer distance this time. The car was moving, faster now, weaving through traffic in a way that made it difficult to keep up without driving recklessly themselves. Then they heard it, the warning bells of a railroad crossing. The barriers were coming down just as the Volkswagen sped through. Donna had to stop, blocked by the lowered gates. "Oh no," Elaine said in frustration, as a long freight train began rolling by. Car after car of the train passed, each one feeling like an eternity. "It's a long one," Donna observed, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. They waited in silence, both knowing that with each passing second, the Volkswagen was getting farther away. Finally, the train passed, and the crossing barriers lifted. Donna accelerated through the crossing and continued down the road, both women scanning for any sign of the green car. They reached an intersection where the road split in 3 directions. There was no sign of the Volkswagen. "Which way?" Donna asked. "I don't know," Elaine admitted. "We've lost him." Donna pulled over to the side of the road. "I'm sorry, Elaine. Between the train and that intersection, there was no way to keep up." Elaine sighed and leaned back in her seat. "It's okay. We followed him far enough. Maybe it's nothing. It's silly that we followed him all the way out here. Actually, we should have just told the police." She looked out the window at the sky. "It's sunset soon. We should head back." Donna nodded as she turned the car around. "We'll tell the police about the man. Looked to me like Walter's son. They can ask the man about it." They drove back the way they came, passing the novelty store again. Elaine found herself staring at it as they went by. "Maybe we should check that store," she said suddenly. "Why would we?" Donna asked. "What could be so important in there for us to know anyway?" But then Donna noticed the big sale banner hanging outside the store. Her expression softened. "Actually," she said thoughtfully, "maybe we should stop by since we're here anyway. We planned for a day out, remember? But it got interrupted. Halloween is in 3 weeks, and my niece's birthday too. Maybe we can have a look around, find something interesting." "Yeah," Elaine agreed, a wistful note in her voice. Maybe we should. I would visit there if I still had my boy with me. Donna turned into the parking lot and found a spot. As they parked, they could see the store name clearly displayed on the sign, Dark Delights Party Emporium. They exited the car and walked toward the entrance. A young employee was crouching in the parking lot, smoking a cigarette. He looked up as they approached. "Welcome," he called out, raising his cigarette in a casual greeting. "I'll be inside in a minute to help you ladies." Elaine and Donna pushed through the heavy glass door of Dark Delights Party Emporium. The interior was unlike any store Elaine had seen in their quiet suburban area. The shelves were stocked with an array of horror costumes, from classic vampires and werewolves to more elaborate creature designs. Latex masks hung from hooks on the walls, their empty eye sockets staring down at customers. "Look at all this," Donna said, picking up a bottle of fake blood. "They really go all out for Halloween." The store was clearly a seasonal haunt destination, popular around Halloween. Fog machines sat on display shelves, and animatronic figures occasionally sprang to life as they walked past, eliciting a small gasp from Donna. "This place is intense," Elaine commented, though her mind was still on why Walter's son had come here. They browsed for a while, Donna eventually settling on a witch costume that she thought her niece would love. It was made of shimmery purple fabric with silver stars scattered across it. "This is perfect," Donna said, heading toward the cashier counter. "She'll be thrilled." They reached the counter, but the employee was still outside smoking. Through the window they could see him taking his time, seemingly in no hurry to return. Donna placed the costume on the raised section of the cashier counter and sighed. "I'll go call him." But as she turned to leave, the slippery fabric of the costume slid backward, falling behind the counter onto the cashier's workspace. "Just let it be," Donna said, already heading for the door. "I'll get him." But Elaine, ever polite, decided to retrieve it. She leaned over the counter, stretching to reach the costume. As she did, her eyes fell on an active laptop screen showing a paused video clip. The costume had landed partially on the keyboard. As Elaine reached for it, her hand accidentally pressed one of the keys. The video began to play. The clip was grainy, clearly recorded with a low-quality webcam. It showed a dark, outdoor setting that looked like woods at night. The camera was shaky, moving through the trees. Then abruptly, a face appeared close to the camera. "What do you think?" the man in the video asked before the clip ended suddenly. Elaine frowned. Despite the poor quality, she was certain the man in the video was the same person they'd seen at the Lavender Grove parking lot, the one she believed was Walter's son. The store's front door opened with a chime. Donna walked back in with the store clerk trailing behind. Neither looked happy. Donna had clearly annoyed him by interrupting his smoke break. "What were you doing?" the clerk asked Elaine in an anxious voice when he saw her behind the counter. "Oh, I'm not snooping," Elaine said quickly, straightening up. "I was just trying to get the costume that slipped onto your desk. I was just trying to get it back." The clerk rushed to his laptop, his face flushing. Elaine continued, "Sorry, but who was the man that came here earlier?" "Which one?" the clerk asked, though his hands were already moving toward the laptop. "You know, the one before us. Not long ago, the man with the Volkswagen car." The clerk's demeanor changed instantly. He became defensive, almost aggressive. "Did you do anything to my laptop?" His hand darted to the mouse, aiming to close the video file, but instead he accidentally revealed what was behind it. Elaine caught a glimpse of a Yahoo Messenger window showing a group chat room. The group chat title read, "Scary Fun Party," in bold letters. What made Elaine's heart skip was seeing the name Nathan in bold text within the chat box, surrounded by several Yahoo Messenger emoticons that made the name stand out prominently. "You were really snooping," the clerk accused, slamming the laptop shut. "I could report you to the police for this." "No, you don't understand," Elaine said urgently. "My missing son from 10 years ago was named Nathan. Why's that name there? Tell me." the clerk scoffed. "You're a crazy lady. What's wrong with the name Nathan? Anyone can be named Nathan. It's not a rare name. It's just a party plan." "Okay." "I'm sorry," Elaine persisted. "But when I tried to grab the costume that fell on your keyboard, the play button was accidentally pressed. I saw the man in that video. It was the same man from before who came and visited this store." Donna stepped forward, sensing an opportunity. "Do you recognize him? The police are still searching for Elaine's son, and just this morning, they uncovered a lead that points to that man's father." The clerk visibly paled. He was shaking now, clearly scared. "What does that have to do with me? I've got nothing to do with this. I just sell stuff." Elaine leaned in. "You had a video clip of him, and you acted like you knew him. What exactly were you talking about when you mentioned Nathan?" Donna glanced at Elaine, then back at the clerk. "Because the evidence we found this morning suggests that man or someone in his family might be involved in Nathan's disappearance. Now we have another lead here. We'll have to alert the authorities about this video and chat message." The clerk broke. "Please, I don't want trouble with the police. The man's name is Derek. We were talking about a scary party. He's hosting it at a family property. The chat message was really just a party plan." He opened the laptop, again, with trembling hands. "Look, I only sold him costumes and gear. If you don't believe me, just read the chat message, but please don't call the police." Elaine and Donna leaned in to read the Yahoo Messenger conversation. The messages talked about a surprise for Nathan, mentioning the need for full top-tier fear visuals and enough strobe for full impact. There was also an address listed where they were planning to meet. "So, you must be friends to get invited like this," Donna observed quickly, writing down the address. "Yes, we're friends," the clerk admitted. "But I didn't know anything about a missing boy. None of that." "Thank you," Elaine said. "I need to let the police know about this." "Please, no police," the clerk begged. "The boss will fire me. It's not easy for me to find a new job. I've been trying to live a good life. I'm on probation for a shoplifting charge from 2 years ago. This job is part of my rehabilitation. If I lose it, I could go back to jail." Donna finished writing down the address and looked at the terrified young man. "If you've got nothing wrong to do with this, you won't be in trouble." Elaine was already pulling out her cell phone. She dialed the police station, her hands shaking with a mixture of fear and hope. "This is Elaine Whitmore," she said when someone answered. "I need to report something related to my missing son's case. I've discovered a video clip
and chat messages that mention my son's name, Nathan. There's an address where something is happening tonight." She gave them all the details.
The clerk slumped against the counter, looking defeated and terrified about what would happen next, while Donna stood protectively near Elaine as she finished her call to the authorities. The police arrived in less than 15 minutes, their sirens cutting through the evening air. Multiple cruisers pulled into the Dark Delights Party Emporium parking lot, and officers quickly entered the store. The clerk looked very anxious, his face pale as he watched the uniformed officers approach. His hands trembled as he stood behind the counter. Detective Morrison was among them, and Elaine immediately went to him, explaining everything that had happened. As she spoke, other officers had already begun interviewing the clerk. The young man answered their questions with obvious fear, repeatedly glancing at Elaine. "I don't know what will happen to that young man," Elaine said to Detective Morrison, feeling a wave of compassion. "He said he's on probation. But so far he's been helping us. He gave us the information we needed." Detective Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "We'll keep that in mind. It seems like he indeed knows this Derek person, but we don't have any evidence yet that Derek has done something bad. We need to investigate first." One of the officers approached them with the address Donna had written down. "Sir, this location isn't too far from here, just a little bit outside town near the woods area." "We'll reach out to Walter Griggs," another officer said, already heading to make the call. "Let's go," Detective Morrison said to Elaine. "And Donna, you can ride with me." They climbed into the detective's unmarked car and headed toward the address. The radio crackled to life as they drove. Detective Morrison, the dispatcher's voice came through. We've got confirmation from Walter Griggs. He admits the address is his long-abandoned vacation house, an old family property near Ash Hollow that hasn't been used in years. However, he denies any knowledge that his son Derek has been using it. Says he thought Derek lived in an apartment. Copy that, Morrison replied. The drive took them out of the suburban areas and toward more isolated roads. The sun was already setting, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples. The trees grew denser as they approached the location. Finally, they turned onto a narrow dirt road. Ahead they could see the property, a boarded-up, semi-abandoned cottage surrounded by overgrown weeds. The scene was hauntingly still in the fading light. There's the Volkswagen, Elaine said, pointing to the green car parked haphazardly near the house. Several other vehicles were also present. But I don't see anyone, Donna observed. The police cars pulled up, and officers quickly got out, hands on their weapons. Detective Morrison turned to Elaine and Donna. Stay. In the car, he ordered. But Elaine couldn't, not when they might be this close to Nathan. She and Donna quietly exited the vehicle and followed at a distance. The officers approached the cottage carefully. The front door was unlocked, hanging slightly ajar. Police, they announced loudly. Is anyone inside? No response came. The officers entered, weapons drawn, moving through the dark interior. Despite the warnings to stay outside, Elaine and Donna followed them in, staying well back. The cottage smelled of mildew and decay. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the floorboards creaked under their feet. As they moved through the hallways, Elaine suddenly heard something. Strange voices and laughter coming from somewhere behind the property. Do you hear that? She whispered to the nearest officer. The officer nodded and pointed toward the back of the house. Through a broken window, they could see flickering lights in the woods. Stay behind, the officer told Elaine firmly. You cannot go any further. For your own safety and for the sake of case integrity, you need to stay here. Elaine reluctantly stopped, watching as the officers exited through the back door and headed into the woods. The sounds grew louder, music, laughter, and what sounded like screaming. Then everything changed in an instant. Police! Everyone raise your hands in the air! The commanding voices of the officers rang out. The music stopped abruptly. What followed were sounds of genuine fear and confusion, then cries and shouts. The police radio chatter increased. Elaine could hear them requesting backup and a medical unit. Her heart pounded as she strained to understand what was happening. Another officer appeared and ushered Elaine and Donna outside the house. For your safety, please wait by the police cars. They stood in the growing darkness, anxiety mounting with each passing moment. Then they saw them. 5 men were being led out of the woods by the officers. They all wore elaborate zombie costumes with incredibly realistic makeup, rotting flesh, exposed bones, and blood. In the dim light, they looked genuinely terrifying. The police lined them up and handcuffed their hands behind their backs, reading them their rights. Among them, Elaine recognized one face, Derek, the man from the yard sale. Derek's eyes found Elaine, and his expression turned angry. Who are you? He demanded. You didn't know anything. You ruined everything. I'm Nathan's mother, Elaine said, stepping forward despite the officer's warnings. And I think you're the person who kidnapped my son. We're just having fun. Derek spat on the ground in disgust. The officers quickly dragged him and the others to the waiting cruisers. As the vehicles pulled away with the arrested men, another officer approached Elaine with an urgent expression. Ma'am, we found a young man in the woods. He said his name is Nathan, but he refused to come out. He's extremely distressed. We need your help. Elaine's legs nearly gave out. Donna caught her arm. Go, Donna said firmly. I'll wait here. Go get your son. Elaine followed the officer through the backyard and into the woods. It wasn't far, maybe 50 yards in. There, illuminated by police flashlights, she saw him. A young man crouched near a still smoldering fire pit. His hands covered his head, and he was rocking back and forth, looking down at the ground. "You're all zombies," he kept saying, his voice thick with fear. "You're going to kill me." I should have listened. I should have stayed down there. A dark stain spread down his jeans, the kind of helpless fear only pure panic could bring. He repeated these words over and over, so tense and crying that none of the officers could laugh or think it was a joke. This was genuine terror. Elaine moved forward slowly, her maternal instincts overcoming her own fear. She crouched low beside him and gently touched his shoulder. "Nathan," she said softly, "Mom's here. I'm your real mother and I'm alive." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the young man lifted his head. His face was streaked with tears and dirt, his expression confused and frightened. He was sweating excessively despite the cool evening air. Elaine gasped. Even through the changes of 10 years, even as an 18-year-old instead of the 8-year-old she remembered, she recognized him immediately. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his nose, the way his hair fell across his forehead. This was her Nathan. "It seems he's under the influence of a hallucinogen," one of the officers said quietly. "His pupils are dilated. He's clearly terrified and deeply confused." Elaine could see how badly Nathan was trembling. She took his hand in hers, holding it steady. "We're going to help you now," she said gently. "You're safe." "No," Nathan pulled back. "I'm not leaving this place. What if there are zombies out there? It's the end of the world. People are dying out there. They took them for experiments." Elaine's heart broke at his words. What had been done to her boy? "Nathan, listen to me," she said firmly but lovingly. "There are no zombies. There never were any zombies or experiments. The world is not ending. Whatever Derek told you, none of it was true." With infinite patience and the help of the officers, they slowly coaxed Nathan to his feet. He clung to Elaine, still looking around fearfully, expecting monsters to leap from the shadows. They walked him carefully out of the woods and back through the house. Outside, a medical team had arrived and was waiting with an ambulance. Elaine noticed the cruisers that had taken Derek and the others were already gone. The paramedics approached them gently, speaking in calm tones as they led Nathan toward the ambulance. Inside the vehicle, Elaine sat beside Nathan, never letting go of his hand. An officer stood with them while the medical team began their examination. "He's definitely still under the influence," one paramedic confirmed. "We need to transport him to the hospital to identify the substance and treat him properly." At the mention of hospital, Nathan became agitated again. "No hospital. They'll turn me. They'll experiment on me." "Shh," Elaine soothed, stroking his hair like she used to when he was small. "No one is going to hurt you. The doctors just want to help you feel better." The paramedic looked at Elaine. "We need to give him something to calm him down. It's for safety protocol during transport. Do you consent?" Elaine nodded, watching as they administered a mild sedative. Within moments, Nathan's eyes began to droop and his body relaxed. Detective Morrison appeared at the ambulance doors. "Mrs. Whitmore, you should go with them to the hospital. My team will remain here collecting evidence. We're waiting for Walter Griggs to arrive." "I want to speak with that man," Elaine said, torn between her need for answers and her need to be with Nathan. "I know," the detective said gently, "but your son needs you now. There will be a chance to talk to Walter later." Elaine looked at Donna, who had approached the ambulance. Her friend nodded in agreement with the detective. "Okay," Elaine said. Then turning to Donna, "I need your presence with me, Donna. Please come with us." "Of course," Donna said, climbing into the ambulance. The paramedics secured Nathan on the stretcher. Elaine held his hand as the ambulance doors closed, shutting out the crime scene and the questions that would have to wait. The hospital emergency department was a blur of activity as paramedics rushed Nathan through the automatic doors. Elaine tried to follow, but a nurse gently intercepted her. "Mom, please," the nurse said kindly. "Let the doctors work. We'll take good care of him. Someone will come get you as soon as possible." Elaine and Donna were led to a quiet waiting room away from the main emergency area. The chairs were uncomfortable plastic, the walls a sterile beige, but Elaine barely noticed. She collapsed into a seat, the events of the day finally catching up with her. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "He's alive. Nathan is alive." Donna sat beside her, taking her hand. "You found him, Elaine. After all these years." "You found him." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elaine turned to her friend with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "If you hadn't kept asking me to get out of the house, if you hadn't insisted on that yard sale, we wouldn't have found him." Donna squeezed her hand. "From now on, you should just focus on the future. You're a strong woman, Elaine. You never gave up hope. And now you have your son back." Time seemed to crawl as they waited. Elaine found herself replaying every moment from the woods. Nathan's terror, his confusion, the way he'd looked at her without recognition at first. What had that monster done to her baby? Finally, a doctor in a white coat entered the waiting room. He was an older man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Mrs. Whitmore?" he asked. When Elaine nodded, he continued. "I'm Dr. Peterson. I've been treating Nathan." "How is he?" Elaine asked anxiously. "Nathan was given a hallucinogenic substance," Dr. Peterson explained. "This particular type makes everything seem more immersive and real. That explains his extreme distress and paranoia. The good news is that aside from the drug's effects, we don't find any signs of physical violence." "Thank God," Elaine breathed. "He does show signs of malnutrition," the doctor continued, "but that can be treated. We've moved him to a private room, but he's still resting while the drugs work their way out of his system." "Can I see him?" Elaine asked. "Soon," Dr. Peterson promised. "Let's give him a little more time." The doctor left, and shortly after, Detective Morrison arrived with another officer. His expression was serious, but not unkind. "Mrs. Whitmore, Miss Parker," he greeted them. "Could we speak privately? There's a consultation room we can use." They followed him to a small room with a round table and several chairs. Once seated, Detective Morrison pulled out his notebook. "We've learned a great deal from our investigation so far," he began. "Walter Griggs's son, Derek, was the one who did all this to Nathan. We interviewed him, and he readily answered our questions, though his perspective is twisted." Elaine leaned forward, desperate for answers. "Derek said he was proud when he finally took Nathan 10 years ago," the detective continued. "It was during Nathan's 8th birthday party." "Yes," Elaine confirmed, her voice shaking. "It was the biggest birthday party I'd ever thrown for him. We invited all the neighbors and their children to Briarwood Park. So many guests came. The children were playing in the garden on the wooden jungle gym in the small butterfly garden." Her voice trailed off as she remembered that perfect day that had turned into a nightmare. Derek openly admitted that he believed Nathan was his little brother from another life, Detective Morrison said. He claimed he loved him in his own twisted way. He never meant to hurt him, but he also never planned to return him. "How did he take him?" Elaine asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Derek was 21 at the time. He approached Nathan under the guise of being a cool, older friend. He invited Nathan to play a secret spy game in the woods. Nathan, being adventurous and eager to befriend someone older, followed him. Derek sedated him with allergy medicine he'd taken from his father's kit and carried him out through the back edge of the park undetected. "Nathan always wanted a father figure or a brother," Elaine said softly. "His father was gone before he was born, and he never had siblings. He was so trusting." Detective Morrison nodded sympathetically, before continuing. "For 10 years, Derek raised Nathan in a sealed basement of a small, long-vacant house his father had bought and forgotten to sell on the outskirts of Ash Hollow. He homeschooled him and had fake IDs, too." "A basement," Elaine whispered, horrified. Derek told Nathan that his mother and everyone from his birthday party had died, eaten in a zombie attack. He positioned himself as Nathan's protector, keeping him hidden from the zombies. He fed him an apocalyptic narrative that the human race was dwindling, that there were only small groups of survivors left. The boy believed him completely. But as Nathan got older, he wanted to go out and help. "That's why the party," Donna said, understanding dawning. Exactly. Derek would give Nathan hallucinogens and arrange elaborate, scary zombie setups in the woods to frighten him back into hiding. Nathan was a teenager who'd barely been out in the world. Derek invited his friends to these parties, and they thought it was just another scary event. None of them knew Nathan was Derek's prisoner. They thought they were just bullying some neighbor kid. "That's so messed up," Elaine said, tears streaming down her face. Donna held her hands tightly. "Offering silent support. What about Walter?" Elaine asked suddenly. "Did he know?" Detective Morrison's expression grew complicated. "Walter has told us everything and has requested to speak with you if you're willing. We can listen to his explanation together." Elaine considered for a moment, then nodded. "I want to hear what he has to say." The detective left the room and returned minutes later with Walter Griggs. The elderly man looked haggard, aged 10 years in the span of hours. He took a seat across from Elaine, unable to meet her eyes. Detective Morrison gestured for him to speak. Walter cleared his throat. "Mrs. Whitmore, I want to apologize for everything. I honestly knew nothing about the kidnapping. I swear to you, I knew my son had issues, an obsession with children since he was young. I knew something was wrong with him, but I never thought he would go so far as to kidnap a child." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When I was still serving as a police officer, I was always busy. I left Derek with his grandparents often. We were never close, not even as adults." "Then why were you trying to hide that Game Boy this morning?" Elaine asked, her voice hard. Walter flinched. "When you recognized it, I knew Derek must have done something wrong, but I couldn't believe it when you said your son was kidnapped. I was just trying to protect him. I thought maybe he'd bullied someone or scared them somehow. There were online images of children I'd once found on his computer. He was always obsessed, but I never imagined he'd taken someone. I didn't want to believe it." The old man's voice broke. "I sincerely apologize for how I behaved this morning and for my son. There aren't enough words to justify his actions. He will be punished." Elaine nodded slowly, processing everything. They were all shocked and shaken by the revelations. "We've begun processing Derek and his friends," Detective Morrison added. "Also the store clerk. His name is Tony." "What about Tony?" Elaine asked, remembering the terrified young man. "He didn't know about the kidnapping either. He was terrified when we questioned him because he's on probation for a different case and didn't want to jeopardize it. Tony had been working at that store, selling items to Derek without knowing the truth. Derek had invited him to the party, trying to befriend him, but Tony never attended. He did help Derek design and advise on the scary decorations, thinking it was just part of his job." A knock on the door interrupted them. Dr. Peterson entered, a gentle smile on his face. "Mrs. Whitmore, Nathan has awakened and is asking to see his mother." Elaine stood so quickly she nearly knocked over her chair. She followed the doctor down the hospital corridors, her heart pounding. Nathan's room was dim, the curtains drawn. He was sitting up in bed, looking small and lost, despite being 18 years old. When Elaine entered, he looked at her with uncertain eyes. "Nathan?" she said softly, approaching the bed slowly. He studied her face. You said you're my mother?" Elaine nodded, tears flowing freely now. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm your mom." "I barely remember," Nathan admitted. "I was 8 when Derek took me. But I remember your voice. You used to sing to me, and you had that soothing way of talking when I was scared." "That's right," Elaine said, sitting on the edge of the bed. I sang you lullabies every night. Nathan was still agitated, his eyes darting to the door and windows. But the zombies? Derek said the world ended. He said you were eaten by zombies. Oh, honey, Elaine said, taking his hand. It's all made up. Every bit of it. There are no zombies. The world didn't end. I've been looking for you every single day for 10 years. You're safe now. Everyone is safe. Dr. Peterson spoke from the doorway. Nathan will need to see a child therapist. The psychological trauma of his experience is significant, but we're hopeful he'll recover. Elaine never took her eyes off her son. I'll be with you every step of the way, she promised. We have so much to catch up on. 10 years of birthdays, Christmases, first days of school. We'll make new memories together. Nathan squeezed her hand tentatively. I want to believe you. I want to believe it's really over. It is, Elaine assured him. You're home now. As she held her son for the first time in a decade, Elaine reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A mother's love had never wavered, never given up. Through 10 years of darkness, she had held on to hope. And now, finally, that relentless love had brought her baby back to her. Nathan leaned into her embrace, still fragile, still scared, but beginning to trust. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but they would walk it together, mother and son, reunited at last. Thanks for sticking with the story until the end. If you enjoyed it, give this a like and share if you haven't already, and subscribe for more.